Hello and welcome to this podcast from the Professional Practices and Financial Services team here at Saffery Champness. My name is Jamie Lane. I'm a partner and I'm also the head of the group based in our Bournemouth office. Today, I'm joined by Anna Wesson, who is an occupational psychologist and executive coach at Samsas, who are a company that provide professional leadership and management coaching. In this episode, we're going to discuss what it's like transitioning to partner and the mindset needed to be successful. This also includes the key cultural and psychological considerations to take on board when joining a partnership. Now, full disclosure, I've worked with Anna for quite a while now, and it's been really useful for my transition through partnership. Anna, do you want to just give us a little bit more of a flavour of the sort of things you do with partners who are looking to transition to partner in a professional partnership environment?
Yeah, hi, and thanks for having me on your podcast. As you say, I am a coach, essentially, executive coach, working with people as they come up to partnership and make that transition to what is often quite a different role to the one that they had prior to their promotion. So I specialise with working with aspiring partners and new partners across professional services, where the LLP model very often means that there are some real similarities and also some real challenges around both the psychology of the transition, but also some of the practical considerations that go with it. The work that I do is around preparation for that transition to partnership, going through the transition, and then also being a successful partner. Sometimes that means learning new skills, mindsets, behaviours that allow you ultimately to be successful in as a new partner, and also obviously significantly beyond that. Whether people get to promotion within a firm within the firm that they have trained with, or whether they've transferred laterally, what I see regularly is that there are challenges and opportunities that come up regularly that are hard to manage on your own. But actually, if you have some support and some challenge, ideally from somebody who's seen it before, whether it's in your firm or another one, that can really make a difference. So that's where I come in terms of the coaching.
That's brilliant. Thank you. So I suppose if you're a senior associate in a law firm, or perhaps a senior manager, director level in an accountancy firm, how do you decide if partnership's for you? I suppose that's where we should start our conversation today.
I think this is a really important question and an interesting one in terms of time, because I think, and this is a guess rather than something I know to be factually accurate, but I think if you went back 20 years, a lot of the people who were coming into professional services would have known at that stage, right, I've joined a firm, I want to be partner. And of course, that's still true now. There are people who join as trainees who absolutely have their sights set on partnership. But increasingly in my practice, what I see is that that's not always the case. There are lots of people who are not sure if it's for them, not sure whether they fit in that firm, in partnership generally. And so really, the first questions that I would raise with somebody are, what does partnership mean? What does it mean for you? What homework have you done? What can you see in terms of the partners in your firm? What can you see in terms of the firms around you? And is that attractive to you? Who have you spoken to who's been promoted recently? Then there are the questions about kind of what it looks like to be a leader in your business. What does that look like? Not all firms are the same, of course. And so, have you got a good sense of that? And how do you see yourself in that? Not that you need to have those leadership skills and abilities at that stage, but you do need to know that you're up for understanding those and sort of leaning in, to use that slightly cringy phrase, to what that would mean for you. There's also the idea of the hours culture and the commitment that it takes to be a partner. I think if we were standing here and imagining that this was I've decided to be a partner, yeah, that means that'll happen for me. Who are you kidding? It's very much around, are you committed to what it means in terms of the time that you will give over and above being a good senior associate, being a good director? Can you make that work for you? What impact does that have maybe on family, on the other caring responsibilities you have? How does all that work for you? And, your support network, who's there championing you? I'm a big believer in the fact that you can't be a partner in isolation. Who are the relationships at home? Who are the people who are supporting you? Not that everybody needs to be aligned, you don't have to have your whole family pointing the same direction, but you need to know that support is there for you in terms of people to bounce ideas off, and in terms of people to help you, at those moments where there might be some self-doubt, or your confidence needs a little boost. And then the final one I would say, in terms of thinking about partnership, is, what do you think about business development? Do you like business development? Are you good at business development? Could you learn to like it and be good at it? Because I think you don't need to necessarily be good at it today, but thinking about, what does BD mean for you, and how might you dial up your skills and abilities in that to build your professional network to mean that you can be a successful partner. So that's kind of a long-winded answer to, do your homework and, make the decision to commit based on your actual research, as opposed to a sense of, I could be good. I think it needs to be more than that.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Thank you. I want to pick up on two particular areas from your answer there. The first one I want to talk about culture. So when doing your homework, I think this is probably the potentially underrated part. It's really important, I think, that you are culturally aligned to the organisation you want to become a partner in. And the reason for that, in my experience, is that you've talked a little bit about leadership as well. You've got to become a leader of that business. It's really hard, I think, to be a leader in a business where you're not culturally aligned. Your values aren't the same values. It's probably never going to be 100% fit, but you need to be comfortable with the type of environment you're going to be a partner within, and how you're going to lead the people in that organisation. How often does culture and values come up in your conversations when you're sort of coaching potential partners?
It's a great question. My sense is not often enough, actually. Although, particularly for people who've been in an organisation for a long time, perhaps they've spent a number of years of their career in that firm and then are looking to become a partner in that same firm. That kind of culture and values piece is there in the background, irrespective. My guess is it becomes more pertinent if you're a lateral hire, if you're moving between firms. And then it is a question of saying, how do you really get under the skin of somewhere without necessarily being able to sort of be in that organisation for a long time? And I think that's much harder to do as a lateral hire. But I think you're light on a really important point, because if you don't have that cultural alignment, how can you be part of leading the firm about strategic direction? And particularly in a smaller firm where you have more influence, I think that's more important. So I think you can never do enough homework in that area, but the more that you do and the more alignment that you can get, the better it will serve you, no question.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, you talked about lateral sort of moves effectively and how important it is there. I'd also highlight the fact that there's so much movement in the legal and accounting world in particular at the moment in terms of private equity ownership, much more corporate activity, that, partnership that you think you are joining could quite quickly change. So the strategic direction is also really important. If you like the organisation you're in now, is it still going to be that organisation, or can you help influence the direction of that organisation in 5-10 years time? Of course things change, but actually it's still important, I think, even if you're not making a lateral move.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think you can't solve for the future partnership that you'll be part of. But you can certainly get a sense of, who are the people around you. Culture exists in the spaces between individuals. That's kind of one of those things that they talk about. And actually, you've then got to understand who are the individuals. Who are the other people that you would be a partner alongside? Do you like them? Do you trust them? And if you have doubts at that point, actually, I don't really trust the partners there. I don't get a good feeling from them. I think there's something to listen to in that. There's a gut sense that you probably need to listen to and unpick at least before you make any decisions about moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Well, no, I was going to ask about your perspective. At what point did you decide you wanted to be a partner? Were you a kind of lifelong, the minute I found out what accountancy was, I knew I wanted to be a leader, or did it take you a bit longer?
So I'd probably say when I qualified, I just assumed that I would kind of work towards, the highest point, I suppose, and, saw partnership as, that destination. And I thought I could probably technically do partner, as I progressed. I'd say the biggest challenge I had was around the idea of business development. And it links to a question I was going to ask you. Business development is one of those skills, when you look at your job as you are sort of in the sort of middle ranks of a professional services organization, you're probably doing a split of kind of management and technical work. That split for me, the idea of moving to partner, where business development and actually going out there and winning the work, I understood was going to get a lot bigger. I didn't really have the confidence to do it, or didn't think I had the confidence to do it. I struggled with the idea of why would anyone buy from me, which I think is fundamental from a mindset perspective. You have to have the confidence to know why someone would buy the services you're offering. But that, I think, business development, was the key challenge. It's really important, I think, in terms of transitioning to partner. And actually, a lot of organisations now, they've made probably partnership more dependent on the ability to win your own work. Even to get to that level, perhaps it was the case that you would get to partner, then you would learn to sell and develop your business. A lot of partnerships now are more structured around the fact that you've got to be able to demonstrate that you can win a certain level of work to be able to enter the partnership. So I am interested to know how much this comes up as a barrier for people that you coach.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I think it's one where, obviously it depends on the individuals. My sense is that the earlier you can get your head around business development, the earlier in your career, the less of an issue this is. So the people who decide that they want to become a partner relatively later on, so, once they're at that kind of senior associate director level, generally find this much more of a challenge because they haven't had their eye on those business development skills all the way through. The people who are, maybe who decide that when they're much more junior and have this on their radar, have less of a problem because you are then, those skills mature as you grow in the organization. That said, you can become a business development expert at any point in your career. There are certainly people that I see who've made it through to partner very quickly with no obvious business development skills, and then, learn on the job and do a wonderful job of it. So I think confidence is key. I think knowing the market, knowing that there are different ways to do business development. There's that kind of trite idea of hunters and farmers, that whether you need to go and find new work, from fresh clients, or whether you farm work and you grow the relationships with existing clients and farm those in order to get more work. There are different ways of cutting it. And I think that's really important to acknowledge, particularly for people who don't have the confidence necessarily to go into a big networking event and sell hard. It's much more around, what would it look like for you to get good at business development? So that kind of individual approach. And I think that can very often be one of the places that I see something like coaching or mentoring being really valuable, because then you can unpick what it is for you that is working or holding you back and what it would look like if it was different. So I think my sense is, even if you haven't got those skills today, that doesn't mean that it's a problem. It means that you have to get comfortable with trying some stuff out and developing in that area.
Yeah, and I'd also add to that, think about your network earlier on. I think if I was to go back and sort of redo my career, probably even through my training, it would be working harder on network, building those relationships and making sure that you are maintaining them to some degree. It's amazing some of the opportunities I think I've had from people that I did work with or I worked with. So there are either clients or there were ex-colleagues where I would have been interacting with them probably 10 plus years ago. The value of things like LinkedIn has helped that greatly because people can track you a lot easier. But understanding that your clients could come from, current colleagues, they could come from people that you studied with, and clients. When you've done good work for clients, You may have been the manager on that client, but in 5-10 years' time, they may have moved. They may see you as someone that could deliver the services to them as a partner, and you're perfectly placed. They already know how you operate. So I think being much more alive to maintaining network and just being alive to the fact that your future clients could come from many different quarters.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. It's almost kind of being open-minded. Networking doesn't, or business development and kind of some of the networking associated doesn't come from one activity, and it doesn't mean that you have to be able to go and sell in a room full of people you don't know. I think that's a useful thing to get past, and certainly it's a myth that persists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think if you are in that position, you've decided you do want to go for partnership. What would you suggest someone does? What are the key things that they should be thinking about?
First and foremost, don't leave it to luck. I think the important thing is to really get strategic about it. What do you want? When do you want it? Where do you want it in terms of firms? And how are you going to get there? What are the steps that's going to take? So I think that looks like talking to people. I think that looks like getting some real objective feedback from people you like and trust. And maybe people you don't like and trust as well, but it depends what your appetite is. And I think it's then about thinking about where are the things that you're really good at, and where are the gaps? What are your development needs in terms of getting where you want to be, and how do you plug those? So really sitting down with a piece of paper and saying, this is where I am today, this is where I want to be in 2026. Right, in order to get that to get there, I need to work out a sponsor. Who's my sponsor going to be if I don't know that already? What courses do I need to get better at presenting? Do I need to get better at, and being really, really clear about how you plug those gaps. I think that's the first thing that I would say. And then, with any luck, the other bits start to fold in, but certainly just not leaving it to chance. I do hear from people, I'm really good, I work hard. I always deliver on time to a high level to clients. I'm hoping to be a partner. It makes me cringe because I think that's not a strategy. Occasionally you might get lucky, you might be the 1 in 100 who gets picked up, but the likelihood is actually that you'll get passed over because you're not advocating for yourself, you're not talking about it, and nobody can see what you want because you're not communicating that. So get a plan and start working on it.
Yeah, and I think I would add to that kind of being quite commercial about it, because if we take the partnership model, no one wants a dilution of profit, being very blunt. You have to have a plan, and a business plan. So, you've got to think about what is your route to partner. Is it dead man's shoes, which, does exist? Are you succession for someone? And if so, how conscious are the organisation? How conscious is the person that you might succeed about you being their successor? Is it obvious? Or is your opportunity growth? And therefore, the skill set might be slightly different in terms of, we talked about business development skills. Are we really needing to think about, actually, we've got a new discipline potentially, you bring in a slightly different angle to the services the firm can provide, or you've got a great network, you're good work winning skills, and that's why you're going to be able to get to partner. But ultimately, there needs to be I would say a sort of a hard cash part of that proposition. As you say, it won't be good enough to be technically good and delivering to clients to a high standard. That's kind of it's almost a given. It's what's going to separate you from the pack and allow you to sort of be seen by the current partner group as someone that they want to have sat at that table.
I love that, because what I think you've beautifully highlighted is that plan kind of has to have two dimensions. It's one, what development do I need? When I look at the partners, what's the gap between where I am now and where I need to be in terms of my skills and behaviours, but also what's the commercial angle, what's the business plan that I will be able to put into place when I am a partner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do I let other people know what that's going to look like?
Yeah, excellent. Anna, thank you ever so much. This has been fascinating and really valuable, and hopefully our listeners will take so much away from it, and providing your exceptional insights into this area that's so crucial for considering whether you want to become a partner and what the skills are you need to get there.
So that's the end of part one of our podcast with Anna. And we're looking forward to moving on to the next part of our podcast and our next episode, where we'll talk about the next steps in terms of your business plan for becoming a partner and some of the experiences I had when I moved to partner. In the meantime, if you'd like any more insights in what we do for professional practices and financial services businesses at Saffery Champness, please do visit our website at www.saffery.com. And thank you for listening.